Keith Ellison is a progressive. He's part of the Progressive Caucus in the House. He's a United States congressman from Minnesota. He supported Bernie Sanders, who, it turns out, according to the polling, would have crushed Donald Trump. And so apparently his political instincts are pretty good. Now, a lot of the other Democrats did not, and certainly the DNC didn't. So it makes sense that he would now run for the chairmanship of the DNC so they could head in the correct decision. Now, I'm not the only person who thinks that. There's over 100 Democratic lawmakers who have supported him. He was, and I believe still is, the leading candidate for that job. In fact, some of the establishment figures have now rallied behind him. So not just progressive senators like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who are on his side, but also Chuck Schumer, very much a part of the establishment, a senator from New York, and outgoing leader Harry Reid. Chuck Schumer is the new leader of the Democrats in the Senate. So they're all on his side. So it looked like it was an excellent chance that he was going to get confirmed. And then all of a sudden, a smear job began. So I want to tell you about an anatomy of a political hit job here and break it down as to how it happened. All of a sudden, you started getting quotes from the 1990s about what Ellison thought of Farrakhan. Now, he apparently helped organize the Minneapolis delegation to the Million Man March. But a lot of people went to the Million Man March. Yes, it was organized by Farrakhan, but there was close to 1 million people there. Right? Certainly hundreds of thousands. President Obama was there. I believe Oprah was there. They're not all with Farrakhan. So that's a smear job. Well, look, to be fair, Ellison did defend Farrakhan against charges of anti-Semitism back in the day when he was in law school. He's just going to school at that point, right? So now they're digging up his old columns from when he was in school, okay? Now, he was wrong about that. I saw a Farrakhan speech when I was in college, and Farrakhan is deeply anti-Semitic. Now, Ellison recognizes that today, and certainly well before today. It's not like he just realized that. And he had come out with statements years and years ago saying, yeah, that was not the right thing to do at all. Yes, Farrakhan is anti-Semitic. So why are we dredging this up again when he handled this, I believe, over a decade ago? So we're now getting back into this? It's because they don't want him in the job. They got to make money, so the establishment and the donor class and the people who are beholden to the lobbyists and want to be lobbyists themselves and all the moneyed interests don't want Ellison. It doesn't have anything to do with what he said in the 1990s about Farrakhan that he withdrew over a decade ago. He has, in the past, had a great relationship with every major Jewish group in America, including the ADL, who figures into the story in just a little bit. They're the Anti-Defamation League. In the past, they've talked about how he was a great brother in the fight against anti-Semitism. So this is a settled issue. It's not a real issue at all. The question is this kind of smear job going to work? Well, they're now using the corporate media to help them get this done. So I'll get to corporate media in a little bit. Their role in this is very important. First, let's go to the greatly offending comments from back in the 1990s. And I'm sorry, he also mentioned later on, not just in the 1990s, but I believe this was from 2006, about how Israel has disproportionate influence in America. A shocking thought. By the way, a thought shared by not only a lot of progressives, but a lot of right-wingers, including the president-elect. I assume they're not going to let him take office, right, because of these positions. Oh, they are. Huh, interesting. Double standard. Anyway, I think these statements are benign. Let me give them to you. You can make up your own mind. He says, the United States foreign policy in the Middle East is governed by what is good or bad through a country of 7 million people, referring to Israel. A region of 350 million all turns on a country of 7 million. Does that make sense? Is that logic, right? When Americans who trace their roots back to those 350 million get involved, everything changes. Now, that's the only quote that was put out there from a 22-minute speech. We now have the whole 22-minute speech. I'll get back to that in a second, okay? So they put that out there and say, oh my God, Israel has disproportionate influence in the Middle East. Even if you're the most ardent right-wing supporter of Israel, you really think Israel does not have disproportionate influence? But oh, they have 7 million people among 350 million, and that's about the influence they have in America. Now look, it's not to say that that influence is nefarious, and they're our ally, and there's great arguments to be made that they should have a lot more influence with us, especially if they're our ally and some of the other guys are not. Now, we also have allies in the region as well. And now, of course, a lot of journalists, including Jewish journalists here in America, have come out and go, who are we kidding? Do Cuban Americans have more influence on our Cuban policy? Of course! And is it true that, that America is influenced by a lobbying effort on behalf of Israel? Of course! Now, that doesn't imply anything outside of that. If it did, then I understand why it would be problematic. But here, for the first time in a long time, I disagree with the Anti-Defamation League. And I want, look, I'm going to give you full context too. If you're not knee-deep in this and you don't know who the ADL is, yes, their position, and I don't know why they take political positions, it drives me crazy, but their position on Israel is far more right-wing, if you ask me, and I don't agree with it. But their work in fighting not just anti-Semitism, but bigotry is fantastic. And they were among the first to come out and oppose Muslim profiling and fight for their brothers and sisters in the Muslim American community. So great credit to them. But here we disagree. They said Representative Ellison's remarks are both deeply disturbing and disqualifying, they said. His words implying that U.S. foreign policy is based on religiously or national origin-based special interests rather than simply on America's best interests. Now, look, if you took that line of thought further, again, more historical context here, and you implied, oh, the Jews are really running things, etc. That's dangerous talk. And it's talk that we've seen in the right wing and that you absolutely should not go down that road. If you say, hey, here is a lobby that is active, and there should be other lobbies that are active if you disagree with their particular position. Well, that's the most normal politics you've ever seen in your life. Well, where did they get this first quote from anyway? It's a group called Investigative Project on Terrorism. Turns out that is a massively right-wing group, and they selectively quoted Ellison from that. By the way, the Southern Poverty Law Center says the people who run that are on their list as potentially involved in hate groups, and that they are anti-Muslim and not just, hey, I disagree with a particular Muslim country's policies, which would be, of course, perfectly acceptable, but that they are anti-Muslim overall, against an entire religion, which is exactly what the ADL fights against. So it turns out when you finally got the 22-minute tape, no, Representative Ellison talks at length about how Israel is our friend and ally for the United States. And he talks about, hey, look, the official U.S. policy is that they shouldn't do further settlements because not only does it hurt the Palestinians, it hurts Israel's interests. That's the official U.S. policy. There's nothing controversial about that. So when you look at the whole tape, almost everyone agrees, yeah, that's a perfectly normal speech where he says, if you disagree with the right-wing position in Israel, well, then you should get actively involved. Again, it's not just me. I'll tell you who else agrees with that in a second. And on top of that, Keith Ellison comes out and says, today, my advice was simply to get involved. I believe that Israel and the U.S.-Israel relationship are and should be key considerations in shaping U.S. policy in the Middle East. So he couldn't be any clearer. So now J Street gets involved. Now they're a Jewish American group who is more on the left. So they believe, for example, that the Iran deal was great. The ADL is against the Iran deal. So I hope that their political considerations, and obviously Ellison was for the Iran deal that Obama struck because he thinks, and I agree with him, that it gets rid of Iran's nuclear energy program and makes the region safer, and we have peace. But the right-wing government of Israel does not agree. No, they wanted us to take action and perhaps do bombing of Iran. Well, we're progressives. We don't agree with that. J Street, progressives, they don't agree with that. So they looked at Ellison's comments, they looked at the whole context, and they're like, no, he's not anti-Semitic, and those comments were not anti-Semitic, and this is ridiculous. So let me quote them directly. Attempts to paint Representative Ellison as anti-Israel or anti-Semitic aid, a concerted and transparent smear campaign driven by those whose true objections may be to the congressman's religion, strong support for the two-state solution, and or concern for Palestinian rights. So they actually go further than I do. They say, no, the people who are smearing Ellison might be themselves bigots. Now, I don't think they're saying that about the ADL, and I certainly wouldn't say that. But they might be referring to people like the Investigative Project on Terrorism, who have been judged to be bigots by groups who track bigots. So part of this smear job is coming from the far right. But why would Democrats care about the far right? Well, there are a lot of Democrats who are establishment people. And so if you want to call someone anti-Semitic and that buries them. Now, what happened to when they go low, we go high? Does this look high to you guys? This looks like it's as low as possible. Let me give you one more quote from J Street. They said, these opponents seek to unearth the slightest inartful statements from decades in public life, take them out of context, and use them as a weapon to silence responsible and important voices like Representative Ellison's. That is J Street, a Jewish American group, saying, hell no, he's not anti-Semitic, and this is a smear job. So, by the way, there is one other data point here. Remind me who Representative Ellison's supporter for president again? Oh, right, Bernie Sanders. A historically successful, in fact, the most successful Jewish candidate for president in American history. Did a lot of those establishment guys support Bernie Sanders? No, they didn't. There's no smear jobs against them. So you might think, well, okay, this is so transparent, so obvious, it's of course not going to work, right? But on TV, they have come to the exact opposite conclusion. Listen to Chuck Todd from NBC and Ruth Marcus from the Washington Post, two total establishment figures, talk about this same topic. Watch.
Ruth, Keith Ellison, is this candidacy toast? The ADL came out noting some remarks he made about Israel 6 years ago. He struggled to explain them. There's been some other folks, and they're very upset at Schumer for supporting him. Is pressure building to suddenly stop Ellison movement?
It sure feels that way. The last thing that the party needs is to have a chairman at a time when you need to rebuild the party that's going to be helping tear apart, a big constituency of it. So
all the TV pundits who agree with the establishment decided, no, the smear job is effective. He's done. And the problem is he's divisive. Now, isn't that interesting? When they put up Debbie Wasserman Schultz or Donna Brazile, nobody ever said they're divisive, but a giant wing of the party, the Bernie Sanders wing, which arguably is now stronger than the establishment wing, objected. But they never went on TV and said, oh, it's divisive because people object. No, they're like, that's the establishment. So we bow. Yes, of course. Nothing divisive at all. When you propose an actual progressive to run the DNC, they go, divisive. And now a lot of people don't agree in the party. And they don't have the courage to say it out loud and in public. They just do behind the scenes smear jobs in coordination with right-wing bigots. But Chuck Todd and Ruth Marcus have decided, no, it's over for Keith Ellison. The arrogance of the establishment and the corporate media is unbearable. And they wonder why we got so strong. Because that's the only thing they put on TV, that kind of drivel, that kind of nonsense. Okay, and I'm not the only one who thinks this way. Daniel Marins did a great job, a great story from the Huffington Post on this. And he points out, intentionally or not, they are boosting, referring to Chuck Todd and Ruth Marcus there, they are boosting the conservative forces in the Democratic Party who want to block Ellison because of his strong stance against the Israeli occupation, for the Iran nuclear deal, and other progressive Middle East policies. Now, is Chuck Todd part of the cabal and Ruth Marcus to make sure that we kill the Iran deal and we go more right-wing in the case of Israel and the Middle East? I don't know. I don't really believe in conspiracies, so I doubt they all got together. No, not I doubt. I know they didn't get together and pass notes around. But this is how the establishment works. There's a conventional wisdom. And they all think they're so clever when they agree with it. They, you get a smear job and you get your useful idiots who come out on TV and go, oh yeah, no, Ellison's done. No, the ADL. How about J Street? How about their comments? No. I'm not. What happened? I thought you loved to be two-sided. I thought you loved to give two sides of an issue. All of a sudden, on this, there's no two sides. There's no progressive side. There's no other giant Jewish American group that is on Ellison's side. That is all gone, washed away. No, whether they're useful idiots or they just simply agree with the establishment, either way, you have the same answer, the same result. You turn on TV, what are you going to get? You're going to get a message of no progressives. No. We stick with the corporate establishment. And by the way, if the defense contractors that are part of those lobbyists and donors and the oil companies or whoever else, or, more lobbying, whoever wants the war, they want it, they're going to get the war. And we're not even going to present another position. The guys who love to say he said, she said when it comes to Republicans and Democrats. Finally, again, I think the reporter here at the Huffington Post had a great analysis of it. I want to quote him one more time. This is how pessimistic analysis becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. A handful of reporters warn that a lawmaker's chances are in danger for a reason they consider important. Other commentators repeat it, and it becomes conventional wisdom. Then the people who still like the lawmaker start to think he'll lose, and since no one wants to back a loser, they too withdraw their backing. And this is how that vicious cycle goes. And it's all aided, abetted, and driven by the corporate media. And then they turn around and go, what? We're just doing neutral reporting. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is what we're talking about. It's toxic. And the last thing on earth that it supports is progressives. The idea that they are a liberal media is hilarious. They can't stand liberals. They might not even consciously think it, but every time there's a progressive, nope, we can't have it. It can't be Bernie Sanders. It can't, no. He's too old. He's a socialist. He's that, he's this. No, I've got legitimate reasons. It's not because I'm getting paid millions of dollars on TV. Oh, where did my salary come from? Oh, it came from the giant political ads, billions of dollars they poured into TV advertising. No, none of that influenced me or the guy who hired me. No, I just happen to be always on the side of the establishment and always against progressives, and sometimes I'll just do a smear job to do a political hit on one of their opponents. What a wonderful coincidence. That's why people can't stand you anymore. There's only one real candidate for the DNC. It's Keith Ellison. And if they do this kind of hit job on him and it works, and they put in another corporate establishment, donor-friendly Democrat into that position, then it doesn't matter anyway. You think you guys are clever? Number one, we're on to you. There's something more than TV now. Okay, it's called the internet. We can look things up. Number two, the DNC will become irrelevant. Who cares about a group led by another pro-Hillary Clinton, and yes, in this case, pro-Obama, pro-corporate donor lobbyist guy who's going to tell us, no, I got a great idea. You know what the DNC should do and what you all should do? Spend all of your time bowing down to the Democratic Party, no matter what their position is, even if it's not progressive, and you should spend all of your money to our pro-corporate politicians. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. If it's not Ellison, then the DNC is irrelevant and possibly enemy territory. Real progressives have no interest in the old establishment Democratic Party. It is deeply corrupt, and it is part of this gross, toxic system, and we're not going to stand for it anymore.